So here's a pattern I've been exploring this week. This is my 9-cell exploration of how to put it together, and I wanted to make a quick tutorial on how to make this happen. You start out with a pencil line. This line is intended to be erased, and you draw from one corner to the other an arc and an arc. So we're making kind of like a banana shape and another banana shape going the other direction. This is our foundational starting point. This space in the middle is what is going to be blank, so keep an eye out for if you want that to be large or small or completely missing. And then when we draw our beginning lines, we're always going to start from the corner and then cross one line and end on the other. So we'll start in the corner and we'll follow that arc and we'll stop right here on this first line. And same here, we start in the corner, we cross one line, and we stop on the next line. Then start in the corner, cross over one line, stop on the next line. And then last one, start in the corner, cross over one line, stop on the last line. Now we're going to go ahead and build the top bars. This line will be echoed out all the way out here, and you can either choose to pinch all of your lines into the corners, or you can slowly step them out along the edge. That is your decision to make. So this one, I did the marks where they're all equally spaced out, and this one I did it where they're all pinched in at the corners but then flared out on that edge. Or you can pinch it in on both corners. Each one has its own unique look. On this one, I'm going to make it even step outs. So what we do is we mirror this line all the way down, and then we stop on this line here. Now, same thing, I'm going to match that green line ending on the red all the way down. I'm going to match the red one all the way down. And normally I wouldn't do this in color. I'm doing this in color so you can follow along a little bit easier. And then the blue. Match that one ending on that starting line. So you can see why we drew this X in the middle and why we started with our reference points first. Now that we've got this part started, we're going to add our weaving lines through. Our first two lines are always going to be a solid bar. We're always going to skip over the first two lines and then add our mark after the first two lines. So this is a solid bar and this is the bit blank space. And you can do it in two ways. You can either follow this way, making all the marks, or you can draw your bars one at a time. I like to start with my inner edge and then work my way out. And I can go down the line like this, trying to make this line connect to this one. Or I can take this line and just slowly work it through. You see it weaving its way in. And then I'm going to do that all the way around. So now I'm doing my green. I would skip the first line, skip the second line, and then add a dash every other pair. And then we stay on that line going down. I'm following these lines here. That was a mistake. And mistakes are going to happen. I'm going to keep going. Once you fill in the background spaces, it ends up not being that big of a deal, but they will happen. So skip over the first two lines and add your starting dashes for reference. Skip those two, skip these two, skip those two, and then follow it down. And we want to have the same amount of dashes here that line up with over there. So I've already filled this one in to show you a solid channel. That's my reference points. When we're filling in our solid space, a lot of times I like to start with the center just because we know that this is going to be a solid space. Along the edges of this first line here is always going to be the bar. So here is the fill space, and then they've got a solid bar of white, fill space, solid bar of white, fill space. So every single one of these, the center is a little bit of a reference point. All around it has to be the white bars. And my marker is dying. And I find the high contrast of this layout to really sing, but you could go the other direction where you are filling in the bars, the lines, instead of the background. And that makes a very breezy basket weave look. So now we're going to start going through, and this is where we want to be careful to make sure we miss the bar. We start filling these in because we do want them to line up. We don't want them to be scattered. Whoop, and that was a mistake, but I'm going to keep going. And I'm doing this very quick and not precise, just showing you the basics of how to draw this. And then I'll do a sped up version of my 9-cell exploration. But sometimes it's nice to get some quick information right away before deep diving into the deeper details. That gives you the gist of the pattern. Now we would go back in and we would shade. Anything that is on top is going to have a little bit of a shadow, either on the south side or the west side or the north side or the east side. You want to stay consistent with your drop shadows, but I feel that the shadow is important to help make it sing. And it's going to be a little harder to see the drop shadows on this one because of all the colors. See how I went down on this one? So I'm going to stick with down so that they match. And then this one I went this way, so same with this one. I'm going to go the same direction. Your light source is going to come from one place, and the shadows are going to be pretty consistent. So that's the basic gist of the pattern. I'll show you real quick my exploration. This is the basic when we're more focused on it. This is where I've pinched into the sides and then flared out my bars. This is what it looks like if you have no center at all. This is what it looks like if your X is actually curved. And this one, I did a curved X, but I also did a flare out. I really like the dramatic of this one, and there's no center. And this one, I did an angle and a straight up and down, so it's not a corner to corner. This one, we got rid of the middle and we pinched the sides on both directions, and it ends up looking kind of like a ball. This one had to be very spaced out in order to make a depth like a box. And this is what it looks like if you don't have a black background, if you make your bars darker and your background white. So that's the 9-cell breakdown. I'll speed that one up so you can watch the process. And I hope you guys have found some information that you find useful in your drawings. Thanks for watching. Alright, let's speed this one up so you're not here all day, but this is my 9-cell exploration. This first one is just the basic pattern, like I explained in the tutorial, but a little bit more tight on the details. Filling in the background, and now I'm going to add the shading. And then boom, we're going to move on to the second one. Now this one I am pinching the corners. So I am doing my arches with a flare out on one side and a pinched corner on the other. And that's got a very dramatic look to it. It looks a lot more 3D. I kind of like that better than the original first one. Now this third one, I don't want a center point. So I am starting with filling in the X in the middle first, and then I bridge out everything else. And this created a very tight weave pattern. It looks really good, but it's tight. And this one we went with a wavy X as our starting point. feel like that center point is a little too airy. I wish that I would have paid more attention to the space in the X to know what was going to be left behind. I would have closed it off a little bit more in the end had I done that. And now we're moving on to one of my favorites where it's pinched in the corner, flares out on this side, on the other side. And it's got a little bit of a wave and no center point. And look at how this is playing. See that point where all four panels meet together? I find that to be the most interesting part about doing this 9-cell exploration. I'm going to have to try this again with cells with squares that are not a uniform square and see how they all mesh up together, because I really like that point where the four meet up. And now we're going to do one where it's not a X, it's more of it's a little bit of a T, a little bit of an X. It's kind of between, one side's diagonal, one side's straight up and down, just to see what would happen. And honestly, it just looks normal. It looks correct. It looks the same as the first cell to me. I mean, you can tell that it's an up and down and a diagonal, but it doesn't look wrong. It just looks correct. And then we're going to do where we pinch in on both sides, all four sides, and see what that looks like. So I'm pinching my arcs into the corner. It's got a little bit more of a ball look, but not totally, not as much as I would have thought. Add a little bit of shading, always, always, always. And then the next one I'm going to do is going to be very spaced out because I want to make these look 3D. I want to have them look like a box that goes down into space. And I like that look a lot, but I feel like my middle cell really sells it, but all of the side cells are pretty small. And then now I'm going to do my last one, and it's going to be just like the first one. It's just the basic pattern, but I'm not going to do a black background. I'm going to try a white background and heavy on the shading of my woven arms and see what that looks like. And I feel like that looks nice and breezy. And that's my 9 cells. Thanks for watching, guys.